Right guys, welcome to Katran TV and the beautiful Westmoor Farm Fishery. We're actually on the Specimen Lake here, which as the name would suggest, holds the big fish, but also the big challenges. I mean, this place has humbled many a good angler. Small water lake, you know, something that we touched on before in previous videos, how tricky that can be. This is no different, and in actual fact, I would say it's more difficult. Well, in fact, I know it is. It's more difficult than the lake we challenged before for this, you know, for small water fishing. The fish know that you are here way before you know where the fish are, but there are certain tactics, certain ways of approaching this kind of fishery, you know, this kind of fishing, that I think will push things into your favour. We'll have a look at all of that. We'll do our best to cover a little bit about the fishery as well, because this whole complex is a really nice complex. There's loads of different fishing to go at, and yeah, we will keep you posted and report back soon.
Right guys, very good afternoon and welcome down to S&R Fisheries. We're here on the Specimen Lake, as Luke would have already filled you in on. And I must say, it's my first time here and I was absolutely amazed by just how well maintained the lakes are. It's spotlessly clean and it's absolutely beautiful down here. Now, I'm not going to really talk you through too much about the other lakes, but later on in the video we're actually going to have a catch up with Lee, the owner, and he'll be able to fill you in a little bit more on some of the other lakes here on the complex. But as I said, we are on the Specimen Lake. Not knowing too much, I spoke to Luke because originally I was meant to be filming here with Luke and just filming, and Luke was going to do all the angling. But he said, Tony, if you're coming down to film, you might as well chuck a few rods out. And I thought, you know what, I'll have a bit of that. So I'm fishing as well, which is a result for me. And we're making it a bit of a social as well, so me and Luke can have a catch up. Now, tactics wise, with Luke telling me just how tricky the Specimen Lake is, I decided that I'm going to stick sort of pretty much with winter tactics. We're now here in mid-March, just coming up. And as you'll see, looking at the surrounds around, it's still pretty much got its winter uniform on. Still winter colours, the trees ain't nowhere near blossoming yet, and I think that is the way to go. Plus the fact that they're clever, they're clued up fish, I think you've got to try and just entice a bite. Now, me and Luke are both using very different tactics, so hopefully that gives us more chance, double bubble chance at getting one, you never know. So what am I doing? On my left hand rod, I'm fishing down to my left hand margin. The whole middle of the lake out in front of me is around 9 to 10 foot, all out in the middle bowl. I'm pretty sure that's the same in Luke's swim, but I'll let Luke tell you about that. But for me, I'm getting 9 to 10 foot out in the middle, and the margins and the island spots are coming up more around the 5 to 6 foot mark and 7 in places. Myself, I don't really like to fish deeper water. I'm very comfortable when I'm fishing in 4 to 6 foot of water, so finding them spots is definitely my happy place. Now, as I said, my left hand margin, I found a little zone of about 6 foot. It's just creeping up from the 9 to 10 foot mark, coming into about 6 foot of water, and I found a lovely little compression. I've actually dropped off a slip D rig into that spot, and I've just put a very light amount of bait there. I've got a handful of creamino pellet, a handful of crushed up creamino boilie, and a little bit of edge pellet there as well, just for the micro granules really, just to get them feeding and mooching around, and hopefully I can entice a bite. Now onto the middle rod. Middle rod, I've decided to whack that out onto a little spot again, coming off of the deeper water, slowly rising up onto a nice little shelf, coming up to about 6 foot again. Now, sticking with a slip D method on that one. Oh, sorry, I was interrupted by a little liner there, which is good. I want that. But yeah, on the middle rod, we're looking at about 6 foot slip D, exactly the same sort of bait. So again, handful of Creamino bellet, a handful of Creamino boilie crushed up. Again, it's almost winter tactics still, nothing too heavy. I really don't think that me smashing out a load of bait is going to do me any favours on it. And for the right hand rod, we're actually fishing a multi-hinge rig with a orange heaven pop-up over the top of, again, handful of Creamino pellet, handful of Creamino boilie crushed up. I know I've got to keep repeating myself, but it is literally that simple. I'm not going whole hog with a bait because I just really don't think it's going to work for me. Now, that's all I can really do to try and trip up one of these. They seem like they're very witty creatures in here, and hopefully it will work. And hopefully, again, me and Luke using different tactics might just be what's needed to stick one on the bank. Anyway, that's enough waffling from me. Let's go up and catch up with Luke. He's just up there. I'm in a swim called First in the Gate, because it's first through the gate. And then Luke's in one called the Weedy Bay, so I'm guessing that that's usually a weedy bay. Let's go catch up with the man, and I'll speak to you in a bit.
Right, so we are actually on day 2 now. I got here yesterday, must have been about midday, and you know what it's like, you rock up to a venue, especially when you've got the lake to yourself, which sounds like a really good thing, doesn't it? Which it is, but it means you've got to look everywhere and make your decisions and try to get it right the first time, especially on a small lake, because the more moving about you do, the more disturbance you create, you're lowering and lowering your chances, I personally believe. So by the time I'd got a plan for me and Tony, I mean, Tony was coming down originally to film me, but I thought, we've got the lake to ourselves and we can kind of split this lake into 2. So it really did make sense for Tony to get the rods out as well, especially given how tricky these bloody carp are in here. So settled in this peg, which is a peg called Weedy Corner, and if you're to look at the lake, I've almost given myself, I've definitely given myself a lot less water than Tony. Reason being is I've caught 3 fish from this side of the lake. I've caught in February, I've caught in April, and I've caught in late autumn, I think. So when you think about where we are now, we're in March. I'm in between February and April, so I'm pretty sure that it was a good shout for me to come down here and, you know, the spots that I know, I think they should produce. Now, I don't really know the other side of the lake too well, so I'm sticking to my guns a little bit and giving Tony 3 runnings of the bigger half of the lake. So in a roundabout kind of a way, that's why I've settled where I've settled. Now, for you guys that have fished small waters, you will all know that you've got to, as I said before, you've got to keep disturbance down to a minimum. Now, on here in particular, that is paramount, and I do mean absolutely paramount, to the point where I would think nothing at all of leaving my rigs out for 4 days. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but I think I'm going to do myself more harm than good by trying to make something happen. And I know what you're thinking, you know, a lot of people will, to make something happen, that normally means changing something, doesn't it? You know, so winding in, changing your rig, changing the colour of your pop-up, tweaking your mix, all that kind of thing. When actually making something happen in this circumstance is the complete opposite. You know, sometimes you've got to just sit and wait and have faith in what you're doing, and thus keeping disturbance down to an absolute minimum. So without going into too much detail right now, that is exactly what we've done. I will talk to you, I'm just conscious we're losing light, so I think what we're going to do now is sit back, quieten off. We've done quite a bit of work today with the camera and everything. Let everything settle down. And then tomorrow what we'll do is we'll look at my rods in particular and the way that I've approached this swim with regards to the mix, the rigs, where the rods actually are, and the swim itself, you know, the depths and all the rest of it in a little bit more detail. But for now, let's sit back, and I say this all the time, keep everything crossed, because me being me, I always give us a real tough challenge. So everything does need to be crossed. So let's keep everything crossed. That got a sneaky suspicion that 8 o'clock might be a good time for a bite, because an absolute lump walloped out last night at 8 o'clock when I was doing my rounds on Tony's side of the lake. So fingers crossed for Tony. Yeah, I'll update you tomorrow. And I'm sure Tony will update you tomorrow too. But for now, checking out, and I will catch up with you soon.
You can dream in color, but I've been living great. But ever since we have shared our cover, all my pictures saturate. But now
What are you saying then?
Well, it's been dead, isn't it?
Yeah,
You weren't wrong, mate, when you said it was tricky.
Oh, mate, this place is, it really can get to you. And I think half of the skill with fishing, I don't know whether skill's the right word, but half of the challenge with fishing these lakes is not doing anything too rash. You know, I mean, the last fish I had out of here thinking about it was the back end of a 4-day session.
Yeah, that's a long time waiting on a fish.
Right at the end of the session, and you know, that's always stuck in my mind. And also speaking to Lee and Jack, you know, and how people approach this, the people that do well and the people that don't, or the people that catch and the people that don't. I mean, it's not a prolific water, it never has been. You're not going to come here and get multiple hits of fish.
It doesn't sort of bring out to me that that's the sort of place it is either, to be honest.
You're fishing for a bite, but the lovely thing is, you get one bite, it could be an absolutely magnificent fish, you know, over 40 pounds.
Yeah.
You're unlucky to catch one under 30, you know what I mean? So, but I think personally myself, what have you done? Have you done anything different?
No, mate, literally everything's the same. All I've done is last night I went down to my left-hand margin spot over there by the bush.
Yeah.
I chucked out a little bit of pellet last night, just like 3 handfuls, chucked out around the area.
Yeah.
And then this morning, literally half hour ago before I put the kettle on, I've just done that exact same thing. But I soaked the pellets up, just to try and make them break down quicker and hopefully just get them picking up the bottom and just give them that little bit of faith that it's not
safe food source sort of thing.
Pretty much, mate. That's it. What's your plan now, mate?
Oh, mate, my plan. What is my plan? I'll be honest. I've got several plans that I could do.
We've only got 3 rods.
I know, yeah, I know. Right, the thing that's in my head personally is everything's changed with regards to the weather. There's a fresh southwesterly kicked in.
Yeah, that's what we noticed this morning, wasn't it? It's changed totally.
Totally changed, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. And also the barometer is falling from now until Friday. Yeah. It's basically the second morning, isn't it? So it gives me personally another 48 hours. I think you personally another 24-ish.
Yeah, I'm off tomorrow morning, so.
So with that in mind and knowing where I've caught before, this is actually a carbon copy of when I caught before. The fish moved on the wind, and the one rod that I've got out, I picked up a fish as they moved on the wind and the pressure dropped. It was a little bit earlier in the year. Was it? Hold on a minute, let me think. No, it wasn't. It was early April, so it's a little bit later in the year when that happened. But I think, you know, it's kind of horses for courses. I don't think that's gonna. If it happened then, there's every chance it can happen now.
Yeah,
it really is a carbon copy. I am conscious, so I'm hopeful that that rod will produce, or has got a very good chance of producing. So I will not be moving that rod under any circumstances.
No, not if you've got total faith in that one. Have you?
No, definitely. The other rod, which is not too far away from it, but at the bottom of a feature, and there aren't many features in this. There's the odd depression. I mean, you've got, I think, maximum depth about 12, pretty much uniform depth of around 10 foot.
Yeah.
But off the back of the island there where I am, there's like a road that runs off the island. I imagine where the island was dug out. And I've got a rod at the bottom of the road in around about 8 foot. Yeah, just before it sort of drops down to the 10.
Yeah.
It's, so I'm happy with that rod.
Which one are you going to move then?
Well, exactly. The one I'm going to move, or potentially move, is the one on the right-hand side of the swim.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I'm going to do that is because I'm fishing, or I'm considering doing that, is I'm actually fishing identically on all 3 rods.
Yeah.
Reason being is, if I get a bite on one rod, I haven't got to worry about changing the bait on the other, or the approach on the other rods. It's working great, I can crack on.
Yeah.
That could be a mistake, it depends on your chain of thought. For me personally, on here with not moving stuff, the last thing I'd want to do is get a bite and then think, oh, the other rods aren't fishing.
Oh, it's not a mistake. It's just, like I say, I've changed obviously 3 different rigs on mine.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, then it's showing the difference. It's getting it.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's like a puzzle a lot of the time, especially with these tricky lakes, isn't it? You've got to
Definitely.
keep trying different things. And so you sticking with 3
Yeah.
that are the same, me not, then that's another way to try and crack the code.
Exactly. And the way we've got our rods positioned, we are scoping out a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
haven't we?
we've got a good percent of the cover. I reckon we've got what, 80% coverage.
Yeah, pretty much with the way it's fanned out. But if I move one of my rods, it will give me a bit of confidence, so I can check that the hook baits are all still good. They're still fishing, behaving. I mean, I'm pretty sure they will be, but they've been out there, best part of knocking on the door of 48 hours. It's not quite, but it's getting on for that way.
Yeah.
So if I bring one rod in and that's sound, at least I'll have 100% confidence that the other rods are all good.
Yeah, mate, makes sense, to be fair. So what's the plan? Is go up and move it, get have a look?
Go up, have a look, and also we can show everybody, can't we, exactly what I've done with the rigs and how I've approached it, why I'm using what I'm using, that kind of malarkey.
Let's do it, mate.
Let's do it, mate.
Come on, Luke, let's go.
Come on in. Right, so in comes one rod. I've got to be honest, it doesn't feel good. I'm really conflicted of whether I should have left it or not. But as I was saying before, and actually I've chosen a different rod to bring in. Looking at it now with the way this new southwester is pumping down there, this middle rod isn't a million miles away from the left-hand rod. And so that's covering a similar area of water. The right hand rod, I mean, the wind's absolutely smashing down there, so I've chosen to bring this one in. And while we're here, and as I say, I'm just going to check the bait's all still fishing, looking at it, still pumping out. I've got no reason now to think that these 2 rods on 100% fishing, none at all. So what we'll do now, just going to pop the rig off, check it's still balanced like I want it to be, have a look at why the main line that I'm using, why I've chosen what I've chosen, and a few little tweaks that I've done. So yeah, we'll do that now. Right, so the rigs are out, well the rig is out. I've checked it actually in the bucket and it's still, I'm not one personally, I'm fishing a solid bag. First and foremost, I'm fishing a solid bag, and I've got that on all 3 rods. I've never fished a solid bag in here before, but going on, so I normally would fish either a slip D, overbait, or a combi rig over bait, depending on where I'm fishing. But going on what's been happening here, February is normally a really good time of year, and for whatever reason, it's only done 2 fish this year, this lake, and the fish that have come out have come over bits, you know, so a single hook bait and a solid bag, just a little bit of pellet. So that's why I've gone with it, minimal baiting approach. The rig has been out there for around about 48 hours. It's still fishing well, yeah, so it's still sat up as I'd expect it to. And on there is a P-fish bottom bait from Mad Baits, and just a little, I think they're 6 or 7 mil compulsive aniseed and bun spice pop-up. And these pop-ups, I mean, I already know that you can leave them out there for days and days and days and they'll fish how you want them to, but given the situation, given how pressured the situation is, given how hard the fishing is, I just wanted to double check. I'm not one for having it, I know there's a big trend for having it really critically balanced. Personally myself, I don't like that. I think there's enough suction if a carp decides to come down and feed on a solid bag. I think there's enough in there with a sharp hook. Key thing I would say is with a hand sharpened hook for the hook to take presence. I mean, I've just at that touched my finger and it is still razor sharp, 0 corrosion on the hook because I've treated it with OP, literally 0 corrosion, which again is a confidence booster. And then an inline lead, 3 ounce, which these are just nice flat 3 ounce leads that fit lovely in the bag. Tubing only rule on here, so that is around about a 50 centimetre length of tungsten tubing. And I guess the interesting thing, because everybody that would have seen me do anything, I'd have always been using Krypton. And for this session, I'm actually on Wild Carp Camo. I'd be more than happy to use Krypton, to be honest. I've used Krypton on a near before on caught, so it's nothing about whether it's going to catch me more fish per se. It's more about I want this line to disappear, as in sink, as quickly as I can possibly get it to sink once the rig's gone out. You know, the quicker I can disappear, the better. And Wild Carp Camo does sink just that little bit faster than Krypton. And just to back that up, what I've done is up the main line, I've dotted some substrate putty. I mean, what is there? There's probably good 6 foot, you know, so 3 pieces dotted around, you know, dotted across 6 foot, and then slackened right off. And believe you me, in the absence, I don't really like fluorocarbon. There is a time and a place for it, but it's such a ball ache, you know, with regards to keeping it clean, it catching sediment, all that kind of thing. And the fact that Katran don't do one. That Wild Carp Camo is such a great fast sinking, low stretch line that in this scenario doesn't really give me a massive edge, but in my head it's 0.5%, you know, because it sinks that little bit quicker. So rig's back in, everything's great. It's given me loads of confidence that those 2 rods are fishing. I can get this back out now. I'm actually going to sit for a minute and just make a really good, clear decision, one that I'm happy with, based on what's going to be happening with the weather, the wind and everything, before I put this rod back out. If I don't put it out on the same spot, I'm putting no more bait out. We'll talk about bait, I think, in a bit. That's something we've missed. So I will just put the bag out. I will not put any more bait out. If I put it on a new spot, it will be well away from that spot, and again with minimal bait. But yeah, this kind of fishing, you've got to be sure what you're doing, do it with conviction, and that's what I'm going to do. So I will keep you posted, and as I say, I think we'll have a look at bait next. Right, so the rod's in and back out, and oosh, and there's a fish. Well, that's interesting. That isn't near, well, it's not a million miles away from a rig, actually. The good sign is that they're on the move and the fish are active. So before I lose my thread completely by seeing a fish, I'm going to crack on with what I was saying. So I did make the decision to move the rod that I brought in. And actually, what's just happened is back to why I've done what I've done. We have seen the odd fish, but the fish that we've seen have all been either, they've all been close to the margin or fairly close to the island. Now the problem you've got with lakes, you know, you've got a few lakes like this, the marginal shelf is very, very steep. And so it's quite difficult to present a bait on the shelf. I mean, you could use big grippers and that kind of thing, but I'm not comfortable doing it. There are places, I would imagine, where you could present them, but knowing a spot, which I've caught off before, which is in this right-hand corner. In the right-hand corner, there is a lovely sort of 5 foot deep area, which was screaming out for me to stick a bait on it. Bearing in mind that I've already got a bait at the bottom of, let's work from left to right. So on my left-hand rod, so the first 2 rods, the original rods, my left-hand rod is at the bottom of a slope. There's like a slope that leads up to the island, and that is pretty much around the zone where we've seen fish. That fish that we've just seen, actually, there's every chance that he is patrolling around that area. There's every chance we can get a pickup off that rod. So that side is covered. My right-hand rod is down in the back margin, just at the bottom of the shelf, where I found about 8 foot. It's about 7.5, 8 foot, and so it's shallower than a lot of the water around it, you know. So you've got an average of 10 foot, like I say, and a few feet can make a huge difference. And I have had a bite off that spot before, so that's fishing for me. And it's also, obviously, the wind is hacking down there, so I really didn't want to move that rod. So that's fishing for me. And then, bearing in mind that we've seen fish close in, and in shallower water, that 5 foot spot had to be done. Yeah, so I had to put a rig on there. So that's how I'm fishing it. Now, with regards to bait and rigs and what I'm actually putting out there, you've got to remember, the plan is not to move them. So what you're feeding and what you're putting on the hook, you know, is important. You know, what you actually feed them. I want it to be as active as it possibly can be for as long as possible. So I've gone for, in the actual mix itself, I've gone for various pellets that have had a light soaking in hemp oil, right? So they haven't been soaking forever, but they've been soaking just enough so that the hemp oil will leak off attraction, but it will prolong the life of the pellets, and then the pellets will work. So the pellets are as active as they can be for as long as possible, if that makes sense. So that's in the one part of the mix. Boilie wise, I've just used 12mm pea fish, got them straight out the freezer. When they're frozen, cover them in calanus oil, cover them in a bit of rock salt, and let them defrost. And what that does is it sucks all the oil, calanus liquid, into the boilie and the salt. So when you actually take the bucket out, when you open it, I did that the night before I came. When you open the lid, you will see that the liquid's all gone into the bait. You know, they're not dry, but they're almost dry, considering that they were covered in liquid. So obviously the liquid's going to be pumping out before, as well as the natural attractors in the boilie. So, you know, just a really active mix that I can sit on for quite some time. That's going to be it's going to be working for me for quite some time. And then with regards to the actual rig, solid bags, you know, it must get boring because a lot of my fishing has been with, and bearing in mind I never fished with solid bags for years and years, but going on what's been working on here, going on that it's a pretty much fail-safe presentation, that's what I've put out there. So all we can really do now, like I said, the fish are active, they're showing themselves, so the air pressure is on the drop now, so we've just got to sit on our hands. I've made me move, I'm not going to make a move with the other 2 rods. I'm just going to let them fish. As I said, when I brought the other rod in, you know, it was nice to see that everything was still fishing lovely. I've got no worries that all those rigs are going to be fishing for me. So, fingers crossed, one of these cracking Westmore carp decides to tip his head up and trip up, and we can put one in the net for you. But we will see. We'll keep you posted.
Right guys, very good afternoon and welcome back to the First in the Gate swim. It's now the next day. My last update with you was yesterday and absolutely zero has changed. The rods are still out there. I'm hoping they're still fishing. But yeah, today I've mostly just been up with Luke in the next swim, doing some of his tactics and rig talk, etc. and showing you his spots. And mostly stuffing my face other than that really. Eating. I've never eaten this much in probably the last 4 to 5 years of angling. But yeah, there's nothing really to do other than sit and wait. So usually I'd be up and down, walking around the lake looking for fish, but with no real option for me or Luke to move. We've got half the lake each and that's what we're fishing. It is literally a wait and bait situation. Now, that being said, I'm not changing any rigs for tonight. I'm not changing any spots for tonight, but what I am going to do is just freshen the hook baits up. So I'm literally just going to bring the rods in, chuck a new hook bait on, straight back out in the exact same spot they're on, with a handful of pellet and boilie crumb just chucked around it. I don't want to add any more bait than I need to. Obviously, they're not on the bait, they're not feeding hard, so to go and put some more quantity of bait over it, it would be silly. So I'm just going to put a tiny little bit just in there to go out with a rig, just to make sure I know there's a little bit with it, and hope for the best for tonight or tomorrow morning really. So that is what's occurring. It's a challenging little lake here. It's definitely not an easy one, and if either one of the 2 of us can nab one, I think we're both going to be pretty much elated. So I'll catch up with you tomorrow morning, guys. Unless I have a fish, then you'll definitely be hearing from me before. Anyway, speak to you then. Cheers all.
Right, well, you will not believe it, but I did change another rod just before dark because we saw too many fish showing halfway up the shelf, and I thought I've got to do something. So basically I stuck a 4-ounce gripper lead on a really slow sinking Ronny and fished it down the shelf on the island. And no joke, 20 minutes later and we've got a new 40 for Westmore, a fish called Stitch. An absolute peach of a fish. It's good to show if you, sometimes you've got to act on your gut feeling. I really don't like moving rods in here, but it had to be done. It had to be done. Couldn't ignore them showing there. And what a cracker. This was actually on an Enduro braided up link, and a Ronny rig, which I hate, but it had to be done because it was quick and I had to get them on them. So we're slipping back, and I'll tell you what, I might be cursing myself here, but I actually think there's a chance for another bite. I'm not going to risk it. I might risk it tonight to get it on that spot, but I think definitely tomorrow on the pressure drop on that area we might get another one. But if we don't, it's a new 40 for Westmore, and compliment to the fishery. Scar, was it? Stitch, yeah. See you later, Stitch. Thank you very much.
Well, mate, that was some night, wasn't it?
Oh, mate, to be honest, you couldn't write it, could you? No. You could not write it. I mean, after everything we've said as well about sitting on the rods, not moving anything, being as patient and all this, for me it just proves that you're always learning, and you've got to act when you see something, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think, yes. Proof's in the pudding there as well, mate.
Yeah. I am surprised your rod never went though, to be honest with you, Tone.
Yeah, I am.
I've got to be honest, I thought that one round the island would have gone.
I had a few beeps, but that was about sort of 9 o'clock last night, and that was about it.
Yeah, but I think it was that show that we saw when we were doing the piece to camera earlier on, and we saw the show by the island. That's what flicked the switch for me to make that change. I mean, the problem you've got there, as I think I mentioned, is it's a really steep bank, isn't it, down that off the marginal shelf.
Yeah, certain areas even more steep. Yeah, so I think it's about putting it on the right slope, which obviously is done.
100%, mate. Yeah, and big 4-ounce gripper down the slope. Ronny rig for speed. You know, it's just something I could knock up quickly. It was just, I think it was just getting dark when it was just losing the light before I made that decision to move the rod.
It was.
Which was the rod closest to the island. Simply because I thought, well, if I'm going to move one and I'm going to fish it by the island, may as well be that one.
Well, I noticed on your rig, Luke, it was slightly different to where you'd normally do a Ronny. You had a different kicker.
So
what was that?
In all honesty, mate, I used a short red kicker from, it's one of Terminal Tackle UK's kickers, but the swivel that I was using was I call them lowrider swivels. They've got a little C-clip on them, so they sit a little bit lower, and they take those kickers really, really well. And honestly, mate, it was for speed. I wasn't overly thinking. I did pick a red kicker, because when I wound that rod in, as you know, there was a bloodworm on it.
Yeah, mate, that's exactly what I was thinking. You might have gone for the red.
So that was, I mean, I looked at the kickers and I thought, well, there's red, yellow, and I thought red, it's got to be red. Bang, get on there.
Mate, when you was reeling in, I saw that bloodworm attachment. I was like, right, yeah.
It's a funny thing though, isn't it? Because that can work in your favour or work against you when you're fishing on a bloodworm
100%.
bed.
100%. I think that bed was round to the right more, wasn't it? But still, it's choosing that red was definitely, I think, the right key as well, to be fair.
Yeah, and a soft boom, which I think a lot of people wouldn't do with a Ronny rig, would they?
Yeah, it's Enduro.
Yeah, Enduro. About 8 inches, couple of sinkers down it, and the idea just being that if the gripper lead held on the slope, which I wasn't sure if it would, but fortunately it did, I just wanted everything to, I mean, Enduro has got that little bit of, that was a big bosh.
We just heard a fish come out there.
Yeah, bloody hell, that was a big bosh.
My water.
That was a lump. Yeah, anyway, Enduro has got just enough in it that it will, you know, if you balance your bait, which I did, it was so critically balanced, that popper, with the idea being if a fish patrols and he just looks at it and breathes on it, it's going in. And I think it's just enough to either, if it does kick away, it's going to come down nice and slow. If it does drop down on top of the lead, it's going to coil and drop, you know, so a couple of sinkers on there just to make sure that nothing's kicking up, and did the business, mate, didn't it?
Yeah, mate, I think we better have a look at that rig in a little while.
We'll have a look at
Go and
that
have
rig
a
in a
look.
little while, and yeah, take it from there. Fingers crossed. You never know. There's still a chance, mate. I think.
Yeah, well, it's for you got what? We've got left 24 hours?
24 hours left. I think you're off today, aren't you?
Yeah, about 2 hours I'll be gone. So it's
So I'll have to.
grueling drive, isn't it?
Yeah, for you it is, mate. It is.
I
Yeah.
think both of us is a fair shot.
You've got about an extra hour to me, but yeah, I'll have to do my best on the camera when you're not here if anything happens.
Yeah. So you can cover that last day.
Yeah. All right. Well, in a bit we'll have a look at the rig.
Yeah, we'll look at that rig and
we'll have a chat with Lee as well.
Yeah,
won't
Lee's
we?
going to be here any minute, to be fair.
Yeah. So we'll have a bit of a rundown about the fishery and. Yeah, fingers crossed something else happens, but you can't knock a UK 40 from here, can you?
No, mate. I've got to admit, I didn't really know too much about what we was coming in on. As I said earlier, only what you filled me in on and what I sort of read on the site. But
Yeah.
it's definitely not an easy water.
No, it's not an easy water.
It's definitely got that small lake syndrome and then some. It's
But as I say, mate, that I think for the people that are watching this, as much as I was saying, you know, we've both been saying about sitting on the rigs and, you know, not doing anything rash. You know, I think I'm very much in the mindset of if you see fish in the zone or roughly around your area, sit on it, they'll find you because it's a small water because you're never too far away from them. Having said that, sometimes it pays to take a gamble, and that's what happened, didn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, well, fingers crossed we can
have one.
have another one. Fingers crossed it's you, Tone, but we'll see when we meet.
Mate, let's hope so.
Let's hope so.
Oh, Lee's on his way down there.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Ah, pucker.
There you go.
Hello, mate.
Morning.
How you doing?
All good, thank you.
I'm glad you popped down. Just wanted to just ask you a few questions about the fishery, a bit about the history, that kind of thing. I mean,
What about your fish?
I'll be fish. To be honest, we've just had a good chat about that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm buzzing to have had. It's a new 40 for Westmore as well, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is, yeah. 6 now.
Wow, so that's 6 40s in here.
6 40s, 36 fish over £30, 27 of them at least over £35.
Crikey, that's some stock in it, mate.
It is. Happy days. English fish as well.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's relevant because a lot of people look for that these days, don't they?
Yeah.
You know. So this was, am I right in saying this is the oldest lake on the complex, or am I wrong in saying that?
The original part of the sandpit is the oldest part of the lake, which is the middle section, the 4-acre section of the sandpit was the original quarry hole.
Yeah.
I think this one is 16 years old now.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It was never a fishery, obviously, when I moved here.
Yeah.
It was just their garden pond.
Was it really?
So when I bought the house, they had this dug to swim in.
Yeah.
This was that they had trout in it. They lived off the land, and they had trout in it. So it was quite rich.
Yeah.
Never seen, you know, it was weedy. It was full of naturals.
Yeah. Well, it still is, mate. Actually.
Yeah, and obviously it still is, and I think that's one of the reasons the fish are doing extra well in there.
It's funny, you know, Lee, because the rod that I moved when I brought it in, bloodworms all on the up.
Yeah.
So they're not hard up for a bit of food, are they?
When we did some work on it last winter, we drained it a little bit. We took and where you caught that fish was, it is absolutely heaven.
Is it?
As in all the way around there, and it's like giant bloodworm. It's solid, and the shrimps and the shells, you could pick up the fibrous roots and shake it like that, and it just kept on coming.
Crikey.
Obviously, we supplementary feed it.
Yeah.
So they get some stuff in that way, but they like the naturals as well.
I suppose it's fair to say, like you've alluded to, that's what probably makes this lake not easy. Would you say?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just hard. I think it's a small lake syndrome.
Yeah, small lake syndrome.
It gets fished, you know, like weekend day out by, you know, reasonable, you know, and good anglers.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not easy. You fished it a few times yourself. You know, you blanked a few times. You've had a couple of fish.
Yeah.
You know, and something happens, just like that, and then you catch one.
Yeah.
And it can, and sometimes it can be just like that. You can have 5 or 6 fish.
Yeah.
In a session, which is rare on here, but it can happen. And
yeah.
You've done nothing different.
No.
Really, it's just.
It's carp, innit?
Yeah, I mean, people have obviously in the winters we let maggots, worms. It don't make a difference. You don't catch them.
No.
They're not stupid.
No.
You know, I mean, that fish you had's been in here 6 years and been out 4 times.
Wow.
So,
crikey.
£17.
Bloody hell.
6.5 years ago. Obviously now £40 too.
Well, it shows that it shows the lake's in good nick, doesn't it? The fish are cracking on weight like that.
Yeah.
It shows the lake's in good nick.
Just man management as well. The whole complex is,
Yeah.
been here. Well, you've been coming here probably 5 years.
Yeah.
But we've been here 7 years here, open now. I've never stocked anything big. It's all been small.
Yeah.
But obviously in the rewards now.
Yeah.
Average size across most of the lakes, even the day ticket lakes are now £20 plus.
Oh, the sandpit's coming on leaps and bounds, isn't it? We'll
Oldest
come on
fish
to
in the
that.
sandpit is 7-8 years old.
So if you could give anybody some tips, if they're going to come here and fish it, which I'm sure there's plenty of people want to fish it, if you could give them 3 tips, what would they be?
Make your mind up if you want to come and fish it as a holiday.
Yeah.
Or you want to come fish and catch some fish.
Right.
There's 2 big things. There's a nice lodge the other side. There's all those facilities over there.
Yeah.
And if you're coming for a social with your mates, which I totally understand because that's what you know, it's what it is.
Yeah.
If you want to fish hard.
Yeah. I agree.
And that means up at daylight,
100%.
down to dark, watching the water, looking for fizzers.
Yeah.
They are there.
Yeah.
But it's what you get. Well, hopefully you get what you put in, but it's still not easy. But if you cut it down, you've told me about that fish, so I expect you've said about it.
Yeah.
It's just something you've seen. You didn't just sit on your hands. You've done something about it.
That's it.
You wouldn't have thought the fish had been there this time of year in that shallow water.
No, you wouldn't.
But
so tip 1 is make your mind up if you're going to come here for a social or you're going to come and fish it. And if you're going to come and fish it hard.
Fish it hard, yeah.
So tip 2?
They're not scared of bait.
No.
In the summer months, they're not scared of bait. When we feed it a lot of bait.
Right.
And it's gone. It's never floating.
Yeah.
It's never there. They eat it.
Yeah.
Don't know how they eat it and when they eat it because you don't bloody catch them. But they do eat it. And the amount of times that we see people, I don't know, a lot of people I know you've had the fish from the island.
Yeah.
There's only 2 of you here.
Yeah.
A lot of people get assessed with the island. They've got 4 people on here, 12 rods out, all going across the lake, telling the fish they're here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've got areas you've got to bivvy up in, but you can, as long as you're within sort of 10 seconds of your rod, you can drop rods anywhere you want to.
Yeah.
You can stalk, you can do whatever you want. And it definitely pays.
Yeah.
A third tip is just watch that water.
Yeah.
Because not every fish, especially when they get hoos, they're not all boshing.
No.
They're flanking, they're rolling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's reasonably clear, the water.
Yeah.
If you just keep doing laps,
I must admit, that's exactly what I did into the hours of darkness as well. Just keeping an eye on the water, doing laps of the lake, actually going from sort of just round the corner to the bottom corner here.
Yeah.
And just keeping an eye on everything. That is paramount. It's the same with anything though, carp fishing wise, isn't it, Lee?
Just hard, they're there.
Yeah.
But you're never that far away from them. Over 60 fish in 2 acres, and most of them are over £30.
Yeah.
But it's tripping them up, getting them to feed, pin your lines down, making sure your rigs are nice and straight, or whatever. Little bits of putty,
making sure you're presented,
pin down.
Yeah. Well, that's nice because you've just literally described what I've been doing.
Yeah. If you're confident with your hook bait and your hook presentation and what's on the end of the hook, and your concrete, your space, your spot, leave it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it every 12 hours. You don't have to do it every 24 hours. You know.
Yeah.
Leave your traps.
Again, that's feeding in very nicely to what I've sort of been saying throughout this this session. Is if you're happy, they should find it, shouldn't they, Lee? They should find it.
Yeah, they will find it. They've probably seen it about 55 times.
Yeah.
So, but you get them, and they do trip up. They get caught.
Definitely, mate.
From a nice point of view on this lake, they don't get caught.
Yeah.
So there's lots of surprises in there.
Yes.
Even
mate.
though I know there's like 36 fish over £30.
Yeah.
And there's 25 of them are over £35. For all I know, another 10 of them could be £40.
Yeah, mate.
Because they haven't been out for 18 months.
Definitely.
But that's what this lake on the complex keeps it special. It's hard work, but the rewards are there.
100%, mate. So this lake on the complex, how many lakes are here now?
6 now.
Wow. Gosh, you put some graft in, didn't you?
Yeah, don't tell my wife, because I'm sure I said I wasn't going to dig any. But anyway, six lakes there is on the complex now.
Yeah.
And 3 stock ponds for future growth and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you got the day ticket, which is the sand
Yeah,
pit.
anyone can come and fish any of the lakes.
Yeah.
So it's not syndicates. You're not members.
Yeah.
If this is a holiday venue. This one, so you can book this for a weekend, Friday to Monday, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
Sandpit Lake is our day ticket lake.
Yeah.
Which is 10 acres.
Yeah.
Can take up to sort of 17 people and big double swims.
Yeah.
We've got Charlie's Pool, which is the newest lake in the complex, which is 4 doubles, again good for socials, and they're all £30 a night per person, or you can have food, and there's different combinations. The sand pit, we look after you. We've got 2 bailiffs, my son and Jake. Jack's a fishery manager now. We don't just take your money when you walk in the door. We're here to help you. We help you move swims. We show you spots. We deliver stuff to your swim. Anything you want to do, we're there for you.
I do get that sense, Lee.
I've been full most weekends for 6 years, and I haven't had big fish to fish at. They come here for an experience.
Yes, mate.
You know, so I was full when I had biggest fish in the lake was £20. You know, and there's 2 of them. We've now got best part of 380 20s in the sandpit.
And the 30s are coming through now, Lee?
30s up to mid-30s, maybe upper 30s, and again with a few surprises. But again, they're all coming through in batches, so there's probably 150 of those fish now are over 25, 27 pound. So God knows what's going to happen this year.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning as well for people that may have fished it in the early days, the bream have all gone now.
18 months ago, I got bream phobia in the end, so I fed up of trying to net in them, so we emptied the sandpit. We took every bream out there. And I'm confident there's no bream in there. And I've offered free fishing if anyone catches a bream in there.
I said that to Tony, he said we'll have to smuggle a bream in next time.
And again, now that's made a massive difference. Last year, the average fish growth across all the carp was now 4 to 5 pounds. So all the 17 pound, 18 pound fish we put back, they've all gone 20, 21, up to 27s.
So there's something here for everybody, is that fair to say?
I mean, you know, we cater for disabled anglers, we cater for novices, we promote kids, we promote ladies. You know, we're a friendly venue, there's toilets, there's showers, we're clean.
You are clean, I think Tony noticed that. It's one of the first things Tony noticed was just how well kept the complex was. You know?
I mean, it's not easy doing it, but we've got Jack and Jake, and we're all on it. We're all, you know, we want it to be the nicest place out there. We work in the nicest place. I say, if you saw the swims are, we think are best in the, you know, best and probably in the county. At least, you know, there's no mud. Yes, it's a little bit artificial. In the fact that the swims are not grass and muddy, but it's a day ticker lake.
Yes, mate.
So
of course.
It's like, you know, you've still got nice surroundings. It's not a bare lake.
And to be honest with you, Lee, you know, I think I do like fishing less artificial lakes, but I also like. There's a time and a place for all of it, isn't there? It's lovely to come down, and you know, especially in the winter.
A family venue, we're coming here for a social, so if you come with your mate, you know, you can double up in a swim.
But I mean, Lee,
whenever you want.
When you've been roughing it all winter, and everything's covered in mud, and you know your barrow's slipping all over the bloody place, it's nice to have a break from that sometimes as well. Do you know what I mean?
There's a market for everything, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, mate.
And the thing is, you know, there's no point moaning about this and that. I've done my take on a day ticker lake, and obviously I did a lot of fishing in Europe, and I like the big swims, the commercial side of it. But I also like you say, a bit of my thing. So you go to the sandpit, it's not 23 wraps. Everyone spots at 23 wraps to a bare hole, and it's the bait that does it. You've got margins, you know, gullies, plateaus, islands in every swim.
You have,
So it's like a syndicate feel with all the syndicate stuff, with the nice swims and the facilities. But it's a day ticker lake.
Lovely. And then there's the high end. I call it the high end lake because that's how.
So we got them posh carping, if you like, where you can bring your missus, and they're not going to complain about weeing in a sawdust toilet. You know what I mean? We got, you know, luxury bathrooms and hot tubs and. Porcelain floors, and you know, you get the whole lake to yourself, and you get whole lodge and the whole lodges. But again, I said, we like to say, there's a market for everything. You know, you can bring dogs, which most places you can't. You have to suffer a little bit on the high end of stuff. You can come and have a lodge, a whole lake to yourself, with your family, with your dogs, fish as hard as you want, as little as you want. You know, and it's all yours, it's private, and it's 5-star.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Lee, thank you very much, for having us.
Thank you for coming. No doubt it won't be the last time you see
Oh, mate, no. It's the one thing I'll say about this, you know, especially this lake, for me personally, it's highly addictive because you can't fish it all the time. So, I mean, whenever I go away from this place, I'm always, I'm always taking something away from it. And then I'm always thinking about how I'm going to introduce that. What did I do wrong last time? I mean, I blanked on my first one. I've managed to winkle out, albeit I've been unlucky with the smaller fish, I think, on my other sessions. But it's addictive in that sense because you can't come back next week, or very few people won't. You know
that voodoo's gone now. You got one of the 40s. So.
One of the 40. Yeah, we're gonna have another one soon, mate. But listen, Lee, thanks ever so much.
No, it's been a pleasure.
All right, cheers.
Welcome
pal.
as always.
Thank you, mate. Right guys, well I thought we'd have a quick look at that Snap Decision rig that banked me that lovely 40 pounder. I'll be honest with you, it was very much something that I could knock up quickly, that was going to be effective and hopefully bag me a fish. Now it's a Ronny rig. The hook itself was a size 4. It was a size 4 hand sharpened J Precision hook. Now I'd always pick a hand sharpened hook, but I think in this instance in particular, where you are looking for, you get one chance and hopefully your rig's going to work for you. It's, in my opinion, it's an extra percentage. So it was a wide gape J Precision size 4, which I'll just bang out now and we'll knock one up quickly. It's actually an advanced size 4, so they're the new ones. 25% stronger with that little black blob on the back of it to protect your knots. Swivel wise, I used, let's have a look, where are we? Here we go. Now I call them a low rider swivel. They're not low rider swivels. It's my name for a swivel that is slightly different to your standard Ronny swivel. I think they're a little bit stronger actually than your standard Ronny. In fact, I know they are. They're a little bit stronger than your standard Ronny swivel. And also they do sit a little bit lower to the deck. The downside to them is they are not ideal for changing the hook. So they're a little bit of a fiddle to change the hook. So yeah, little low rider swivel, size 11. I went for a red kicker, and the reason I went for a red kicker was because when I retrieved the rod, there's bloodworm on the hook, so it just made sense. But in all honesty, the kicker, I prefer shrink tubes. I think it holds the shape of the Ronny rig a little bit better. You can keep that curve in it. But as I say, because that bloodworm was on the hook and I saw a red kicker, that's what went on there. So what I do is stick the kicker on, thin end first over the eye. A lot of people will go round the point of the hook, fat end first, but I always worry about nicking the point. Again, hand sharpened hooks, yeah, you know, there's the bad points, not the bad points, but there are things you've got to be careful of. So for me, go over the eye of the hook with a thin end. So red kicker on, snap the hook on, pull the kicker down, and that's pretty much done. I won't bore you with putting the bait screw and hook bead on, because that's what I actually did. Again, for speed, it was bait screw and a hook bead. But I think the important bit, or the bit that's different to most people with a Ronny rig, most people will always reach for a stiff boom. I went for Enduro. I think I alluded to the reason why I went for Enduro earlier on when me and Tony had a bit of a catch up. But just to run you through exactly what I did. About an 8-inch section. I'm not going to measure this, but I do always measure my materials just because I don't want to waste any. But an 8-inch section, figure of 8 looped onto the swivel, like that. And again, this is all very standard stuff. But the other thing that I did was I added 2 sinkers. And a little tip for you guys with these sinkers: if you stick them onto a splicing needle, one of the green Katran, well, any splicing needle. Most sinkers come with 3 on a stem, right? So I will always put all 3, because as soon as you know yourself, once you put one sinker on, you close the loop up at the top of the wire and it's a bugger to get open. So I always put all 3 onto the splicer needle, and then I've got some on there for when I want to use them again, and then transfer them off the splicing needle onto the rig. Now the reason I used 2 sinkers in this instance was because I wasn't quite sure, because I was fishing up a steep incline, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to sit. Say with Enduro, it's got a little bit of memory compared to most soft braids. So, you know, as I said, I wasn't sure how it was going to sit. I wanted to make sure that if it did all fall on top of each other, you know, on top of itself, everything was going to be pinned down, you know, and the rig could coil up and into the mouth of Mr. Carp. Substrate anti-tangle sleeve. And again with these, I think it's easier just to use your splicing needle. I use a splicing needle for pretty much everything. On she goes. Figure of 8 loop. Let's see if we can do this without buggering it up. Like that. Give it a pull. Make sure she's nice and tight. And the important thing, the second most important thing about this rig, and probably the most important thing other than a razor sharp hook, was the pop-up and how I presented it. I think my pop-ups are just on the roof of the bivvy, actually, thinking about it. These were the ones that I went for, and they were a pastel colour. They're Mad Baits Wicked White pastels, and did the colour really matter? I don't know, is the honest answer. But what I did was I went for something that we're fishing, it's almost like a red, I think it's kind of like, well, it's sand, isn't it? So it's got a bit of colour to it. I wanted something they'd see, but didn't look too glarish. So I used I think that's about a 14mm pop-up. And what I did, I used no putty on the rig whatsoever, and I gently trimmed the pop-up down until it was literally crawling down. And that's something I don't like to do, especially if I'm fishing around bait, you know, if I'm fishing over bait. But in this scenario, it's literally just a handful of pellet, this pop-up, and I wanted it to literally crawl down so that if a carp patrolled that margin, which we knew that they were, hence we put the rig there, he saw that and he breathed on it, it was going in and it was hooking. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, the rig was out there for, if it was out there for 15 minutes, I think it was probably 15-20 minutes absolutely maximum. So yeah, that's the rig, just a simple Ronny rig using a soft boom, couple of sinkers down it, and a critically balanced pop-up just to snare, which was basically fished as a single, to be honest with you, just to snare any passing fish, and it works. So yeah, maybe that's something you can put into your angling, and bag yourself a carp, fingers crossed, guys.
Right guys, well, very good morning. It's now the last morning for me. I've been here a couple of nights, and it's time for me to get myself out on the road and get back home. Duty calls and all that. But it's been an absolutely enjoyable session for me. I've really enjoyed coming up here, being on such a lovely complex this is. Catching up with Luke and Zoe, it's been brilliant. So we don't really get to see each other that much in the flesh, so it's always nice. And yeah, would I come again? Yeah, definitely. I'd come down in a heartbeat. It's just a fantastic place and very, very different from what I'm used to. Now, the tactics that I decided to deploy was obviously discussed earlier, but we had marginal spots. We had spots on the island in the shallower water, very minimal bait in, using a little bit of Creamino pellet, Creamino boilie. and I was just relying on that was going to work. You can only try. We've seen fish show in the area. Unfortunately, for me it weren't to be, but Luke, absolutely fair play, hats off to manage to make a snap decision just before lights dying and do what he did there. He's pulled out an absolute mega fish, and yeah, you can't really ask for much more than that on a video, and I'm hoping that you guys have enjoyed watching it. Now, if you guys fancy coming down to S&R Fisheries, it's an absolutely mega venue. You really won't regret it. For me, it's been a lovely bit of luxury. No barrowing, I couldn't move swim, but just to set up and have that luxury fishing, let's call it, it's been really good. But there's a lot of lakes on this complex. There's some of them have got electric, you've got your lodges with total luxury like Jackie's Pool. But if you're interested, make sure you head over to the S&R Fisheries website and you can have a full look on there. It's a very, very well put site. It's all very explainable. You can understand everything easy. I had a quick look before I actually come down, so that's how I know. So for now, you're going to be in the hands of Luke for the next 24 hours, and he's going to update you on any further occurrences, let's say. And I'm hoping up to this point, guys, you've enjoyed the feature. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you do, because the subs really help us keep on making the content that we're making. And for now, I'll see you all on the next one. Tight lines. Right guys, well, it's been a bit of a manic session really, but Luke's had that mega fish, and I was thinking, oh, I'm going home, nothing's happening, I can't do any more, and then just a change of luck just went my way, and it's just unreal really. So I'm not going to keep you waiting too long. Oh, he's a lively one. Come on, mate. Well, so this one, you have to excuse me, I'm really taken back by this one. Whoa, stop. So,
Right, good morning guys. It is the final morning and I'm checking in with you to say thank you very much for watching, and just to let you know, unfortunately no more fish, but who can be disappointed with a £40 plus fish and a new 40 for the complex? I think it's overall it's been a right result, and for anyone who's planning to come here, I would thoroughly recommend it. You know, not for the faint-hearted, this lake, but the rewards are there, but you've got to graft for them, you know. So hope you can take something from this feature, and be sure to drop the S&R Fishery page a like, the Westmore Fishery page a like, and if you've got any inquiries about the fishery, drop them a message, and believe you me, the guys here are more than happy to help you with any questions that you've got. So yeah, as I say, thank you very much for watching. We will catch up with you, I said it last time, but hopefully in some better weather. But yeah, cheers guys, and catch up with you soon.